Rek'Sai and Thresh banned away on the side of Trick2g, and Nidalee banned on Nightblue's side. No surprises there. RF Legendary, a legendary Nidalee player. Let's run through these lineups real quick. On the side of Trick2g, we got Trick himself in the jungle, Strumpist most likely in the mid lane, RF Legendary in the top lane, and then Xpeke and Sicko Scott fighting it out over who gets to play support in this interesting team. Nightblue's team on the other side, Nightblue in the jungle. The Psych, I think, coming in as the top laner, perhaps as the jungle. It'll be interesting to see exactly where these guys go. He is a substitute player. Golden Glue, of course, in the mid lane. Ethel in the bot lane. Biofrost, legendary Jaina player, had a perfect game yesterday, and the support for Nightblue squad. We see the last ban coming out from Trick2G side is going to be Syndra. No surprises there. Golden Glue usually gets at least one target ban, usually his Syndra or his Azir. It's not always the same, but it makes a lot of sense in this case, especially against if they're going to ban out Strumpus' Veigar in this situation. Strumpus, a very accomplished Veigar player, put a lot of work in on that champion yesterday and played pretty out of his mind in some of those games. Jinx also banned away from Xpeke. Xpeke, a Jinx main by definition, so it'll be interesting to see what he opts to pick up here. Trick2g's Udyr is, of course, left unbanned, but does opt to pick Janna. This is kind of a common strat. We've seen the pick and bans get progressively more competitive as this tournament has gone on. Janna, of course, a very common first pick, a champion that has both offensive and defensive utility, a reasonably strong lane phase, does have some weak matchups, but in the mid to late game team fights, there's really not a more powerful support in the game right now. We do see Azir hovered over. It won't be surprising to take that. We also might see a Jarvan picked up. Jarvan being played a lot yesterday. Definitely a very safe jungler. I'm curious to see exactly what they're going to take here. They have not banned out any of Trick's junglers, so it doesn't make any sense to try to take anything away. Trick2g is all right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like I dropped out there for just a brief second. Sorry about that. And so we are going to miss out on pick and ban phase here for the most part. We're not going to get anything finalized until we are able to jump in and spectate this game. Just a little bit of a technical difficulty on our side and a little bit of my computer deciding to crash randomly on me. But we will be back shortly. I'm going to kick it to a quick break while we run through this pick and ban phase. You guys are not going to, unfortunately, get to see the updated pick and bans until we hop in a game, but I will get them for you as soon as possible. So hang tight there, guys. Sorry to start off this night with some technical difficulties. Thanks for your patience, and we will be back in just a few minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back to the first game. In week 4, day 2 of the Omen encounter, I have, of course, your host and solocaster, Sifa. Sorry about the delay there. Had a few computer issues on my end, and as a result, we missed out on a lot of the picks and bans. Hopefully you did get to see a lot of them as we were coming into the load screen, but just in case you didn't, I will run through it. Right off the bat, Trick2g's team going to go full aggressive here. They have RF Legendary on Gnar in the top lane, Strumpist on that Lissandra mid, Trick himself on the Nocturne jungle, something he played yesterday, Xpeke on that Lucian, very strong laner, and Sicko Scott on that Janna pick. So good on them to deny Janna from Biofrost, and it'll be interesting to see how well Sicko Scott does with it. On the opposite side, we have Nightblue on Lee Sin, former king of the jungle, some say still king of the jungle. The Psych, our substitute player for the evening, is going to be playing Akali top against RF Legendary. Curious to see how this is going to work out for him. Golden Glue in the mid lane on that Azir pick, one he is a huge fan of. Ethel in the bot lane with that Tristana, backed up by Biofrost on Sona. Sona, a champion we've seen once or twice, with not too much success in this tournament, but Biofrost is a little bit more experienced than the previous Sona players that we've seen, so it'll be interesting to see exactly how he uses this pick. Both teams looking like they want to be pretty aggressive here. Definitely looking to scale in the late game with that Tristana pick on the side of Nightblue, but have a lot of early game power with Nightblue picking that Lee Sin up in the jungle. The Psych, a relative unknown on this team. I'm curious to see how exactly he's going to do against RF Legendary. RF Legendary, very competent top laner. Currently the point leader, for those of you who are keeping up with the tournament. So at 90 points, meaning he has 9 wins in this tournament. So that's pretty impressive. By far one of the strongest players we've seen so far. You can see from Trick2g's comp, they are going to look for those mid and late game team fights. They do have that Lissandra mid. They do have that Gnar top. So with Mega Gnar and Lissandra, you have a ton of CC. Late game Gnar can provide a whole 3 seconds to multiple targets on his own, combining his ult and, of course, that W. So overall, Gnar, a very strong champion. Will probably do very well in this lane against Akali in the early game, just because Akali, of course, pre-6 has a really hard time getting any damage off, but post-6 becomes sort of an assassin monster, so I'm curious to see how they're going to use that pick overall, and really I think what we're going to wait for at this point is the mid-game, because Lee Sin, Nightblue playing Nat, only one who's going to be able to make plays in this early game. Trick2g a little bit going to have to play a little more passive on this Nocturne jungle, and Nocturne, of course, has a solid and a very safe clear, but definitely doesn't have the best early game aggressive ganks. Xpeke getting super aggressive in the bot lane, him and Sicko Scott using that level 2 to its full value. You can see now that they came out on top in that trade. The big issue there, of course, is that Biofrost has a significantly more sustain on that pick than Sicko Scott is going to have on that Janna. So curious to see exactly how this lane will continue to move out, but good use of that level 2 power spike from Xpeke and Sicko Scott, and if they keep showing that level of play and that level of awareness, we can expect this lane to go in their favor, although still obviously a lot of time, and Ethel has a lot of opportunities to scale up here into the late game, and if Ethel can farm safely, then they're going to come out on top in the long run. Mid lane, Lissandra versus Azir. Definitely a matchup that favors Azir. Azir normally very safe, able to kind of stay back and farm against more aggressive mid laners, but Lissandra, who has to play passive herself and is very limited by her short range, is going to get bullied out here a little bit. You can see as she has 10 CS to Goldenglue's 18 on that Azir pick, so very good play coming out from Goldenglue to zone her off the early farm, but once again, we're really just waiting for that level 6 power spike. So at this point, we do see an early pause in the game. My guess, someone's having a little bit of connection issues, but no surprises there. It's going to happen. Meanwhile, in the top lane, just while we're paused here, we can see RF Legendary doing his best to bully that Akali out of the lane. Akali starting cloth 5 pots, has not popped a single pot yet, but also has, you know, almost 20 farm behind, 15 farm behind at this point. So definitely falling behind already. Does have a huge wave coming into that tower, so the big question is going to be, is the Psych comfortable CSing under tower? Can he or she, not sure exactly who's playing that, make up that loss in this early game by farming well under tower? And, you know, can he survive till level 6, which is going to be the big question, because obviously Akali at level 6 is a monster, has that humongous power spike when she gets those dash charges, and it's just going to do so very well. RF Legendary getting a little bit aggressive onto Nightblue's jungle. They have pinged Nightblue out here. Are they going to fight for it? Doesn't look like it. RF Legendary just knowing that he has full advantage here and wanting to contest the Krugs a little bit. Xpeke getting that Eye of the Storm field, using it to its full power, getting that little bit of that double tap off to trade with Tristana, but once again, Biofrost burning through mana slowly but surely to keep Ethel healed up, and Ethel not looking too concerned. Biofrost on his own, burning through that Eye of the Storm shield very quickly with the Hymn of Valor. I'm gonna go with Hymn of Valor. And just doing, you know, a solid amount of damage there, and as we move forward and Sona starts to get later and later into the levels, like once she gets level 5 and level 7 and has the level 3 and level 4 versions of that ability, is going to be able to chunk out Xpeke pretty hard, especially if she can combine that with the Crescendo all-in, and of course, Ethel on that Tristana pick is going to have an excellent time when she gets that 400 damage power spike and Buster Shot. Goldblue immediately getting engaged on by Trick2g here in the end. The fear does get off, but it doesn't look like they have the damage to follow it up. This is one big disadvantage of this lane, is that Trick2g in this early game as Nocturne has solid damage himself, but Strumpus on the Lissandra pick. Lissandra has high base damages, but not necessarily excellent scaling at this point in the game, as is not able to 100% kill Goldenglue. Goldenglue, of course, opting to take heal in this mid lane, which in the end is going to be part of the reason why that gank didn't quite go their way. Overall, though, Goldenglue burning both summoners for almost no summoners on the side of Trick2g's team. The Ignite is, of course, used, and so we will see probably repeat ganks for Trick2g at this point. Trick only level 3, though. Isn't going to have that ult as a reliable way to engage, but Strompist is quickly approaching level 6. A bit low health here, is going to have to back out of the mid lane. Might have to give up a little bit of pressure on that tower, but I can't imagine it going down at this stage. And it's very clear that Strompist just wants this level 6, and Trick more than happy to pick up the XP in this situation. Nightblue, however, headed down into the bot lane. They do not have vision of this. It is, however, pinged out. They are going to back off. So good map awareness from whoever pinged that out. We'll assume it's either Trick or Strompus. But and good responsiveness from Sicko Scott and Xpeke to back off almost immediately. Ethel still more than content to farm. 35 CS to Lucian's 36 is going to get ahead of Lucian a little bit here during this phase. Oh, unless they opt to stay. They are going to stay and chill in this bush. I don't really think they have the damage to get a huge advantage here. Biofrost does have to be careful, though. He is very squishy. They are immediately going to go on to Ethel, using their positioning on Biofrost to sort of to zone him away from Ethel in that situation. Ethel very low, Biofrost very low, and Biofrost now out of mana. At this point, this is where the lane phase is going to start to favor Sicko Scott and Xpeke, but Nightblue is here to make sure that that does not happen. Nightblue wrapping around the back again. They are completely unaware on this one. This one is not going to get pinged out. They have to be careful here. If Nightblue lands that Q, which it looks like he will after that slow, Xpeke could go down. Excellent block from Sicko Scott. He is still going to go down, however, and the Mega Gnar from RF Legendary teleporting in, getting the double kill there, slamming them both into the wall. Of trying to go for the stun onto Biofrost. Good responsiveness from RF Legendary, using that Mega Gnar cooldown, knowing Akali has none of her CC kit to take him down, or no CC in her kit to take him down, and teleporting into the bot lane. RF Legendary starting the game off 2-0-0, 52 farmed, Akali's 42. This is a huge laning advantage, and it looks like the team immediately wants to transition this into Dragon. Trick, known for loving to take these jungle objectives. And this 6% AD/AP buff gonna come in pretty huge here. I mentioned earlier that Lissandra doesn't have great scaling, but any AP is going to help her. And of course, when you're RF Legendary on that Gnar, and they've reduced the base damage a little bit on a lot of the skills. Unfortunately, he's going to go down here. The Psyche immediately engaging. Golden Glue pushing RF Legendary back into that Dragon Pit. So good team fight and good pickup from them, but they aren't going to get too much from that. Despite getting a small gold lead, about 600 at this point in the game, that Dragon buff is going to pay dividends later in the game. So at this point, pretty negligible gold lead, and in the end, good play from RF Legendary to gank that bot lane. Good follow-up from Golden Glue and the Psyche to get those kills after Dragon, but they still do give up that Dragon, which at this point is going to put them a very small amount behind. Now a 1k gold lead as the farm differentials are starting to catch up. 10 CS late in the mid lane for Golden Glue on Azir. No surprises there. Obviously, just a very strong laner at this point in the game, and Lissandra, without her full kit, or without committing her full kit, isn't going to be able to trade efficiently with this Azir. You notice Akali in the top lane going for both the Zhonya's and the Hextech Gunblade, getting a few small pieces of both the Revolver and the Seeker's Arm Guard to help her survive in this laning phase. And now that she is level 6, and RF Legendary is returning to the top lane with limited to no cooldowns, I'm curious to see exactly how this laning phase is going to work out. This is the point in the game where she can look to turn it around, and RF Legendary without Mega Gnar form doesn't have really any good way to get away from the Psyche on Akali. Meanwhile, on the bot lane, you can see Biofrost playing very forward, but in the jungle, Trick2g has to be careful. It looks like he will go down. Nightblue is going to get the red buff off that one. Trick not really respecting the damage coming out from Nightblue. Strumpus is going to get the follow-up here, may get the blue buff for himself. It looks like Sicko Scott going to snag that kill with the Tornado, getting the red buff for bot lane. Probably a good choice overall to donate the buff to Sicko Scott, but the gold not going to Strumpus is going to hurt him a little bit. He did have to give up a little bit of CS to roam down there, and tough game for Trick, getting caught out like that. Good call from Nightblue to roam into the jungle and contest that buff, but you know, not quite seeing the ward coverage from Trick2g's team that we have in the past games. Nightblue's team warding up the entirety of that bot side jungle and taking full advantage of that to kind of steal that buff away from Trick2g. And though in the end it ended up on Sicko Scott on support, you know, still not where you want it to be. You want it on Trick2g. Ethel taking a lot of harass there. RF Legendary starting to lose this matchup now that the levels have started to favor Akali. Akali, of course, once, as I mentioned earlier, post-level 6 becomes infinitely stronger than she is pre-level 6. All of her abilities much easier to land when you can dash in to get them off, and you see RF Legendary now has got that Hex Drinker, but we can imagine that it has not yet been popped, so could potentially use this to bait the Psyche under turret. The Psyche, however, very strong at this point in the game, will be able to do a lot of damage, is going to have multiple charges up, and Nightblue and Golden Glue are moving as well, just in case they try to commit more to this than they need to. Trick2g hovering around, waiting. Does have level 6, does have his ultimate available. Could look to do something tricky here, but it looks like instead RF Legendary will just back off, going to opt for a little bit more magic resist, most likely those Mercury Treads to pair with that Hex Drinker. Ethel has the BF Sword here. You can see Xpeke not wanting to go that route, looking for a lot more laning power, and is going to start with that Brutalizer, doing just a ton of damage to Ethel there. Ethel having to play safe. You know, this sustain is only good if they can have a nice slow laning phase, but if Xpeke is able to all-in consistently, then that Sona heal is going to be mostly irrelevant. Sona, however, does still have her ultimate available, can still go in here if she needs to. It's going to be hard-pressed if they try to dive the turret, because Sona is just going to be able to lock them up immediately. Ethel still very low, however, also has her ult and heal. So curious to see how they play this one out. I'm guessing they're just going to use the lane pressure to their advantage, kind of punish Tristana for that explosive shot and force it taking or doing explosion damage whenever she kills a minion, so making it much harder to CS into turret reliably. RF Legendary playing aggressive now that his Mega Gnar is about to be up. Does still have to be careful though, the Psyche does a lot of burst damage, but of course Mega Gnar with that amount of CC and that amount of base damage that it can do is just so very powerful, and the Psyche is going to respect it and just farm under the turret here. Nightblue still hovering around, waiting, knowing that Trick2g tends to gank on this top side. Xpeke gonna go super aggressive here, does manage to get out of tower range there, does follow up with the culling on that very low health Ethel and kind of snipes him out there. Kind of a lackluster all from Biofrost, not locking him under the tower like he wanted to, but he does, however, save Ethel's life for just a few more seconds, but not gonna matter in the long run here. Now, Xpeke, 84 farm to Tristana 79, mostly negligible, but does pick up that kill there, and it's probably going to look to continue to build aggressively in this bot lane. Going to pick up the BF sword, and now just has pure attack damage advantage in this bot lane. You know, when you combine all this attack damage, all this cooldown reduction, all this armor pen with that shield from Janna and that 80 boost that she gives, Lucian just is so hard to fight and so hard to trade against. So until we get into the late game, Ethel's going to be hard pressed to win this bot lane, but you do see that Avarice Blade pick up. Ethel acknowledging that, you know, these trades aren't going her way, but able to do a lot with that and hopefully make up a lot of the advantage in the late game. Trick2g coming in here into the top lane. RF Legendary getting that Gnar off onto the wall earlier, going to do a ton of damage, and then jumping and getting that last auto attack off on Psyche. Good responsiveness from Trick2g to ultimate the top lane, using that paranoia and denying any counterplay there for the Psyche. The Psyche, of course, trying to get into the Twilight Shroud, but just way too low and not able to do anything there. Trick2g will, however, go down to the turret, but will also get the turret. But meanwhile, in the bot lane, Sicko Scott immediately using Monsoon on Nightblue. Nightblue still has the Sonic Wave available, or still could follow up with the Resonating Strike, and is going to immediately, doesn't have the energy here to follow up, is going to auto the creep to get that energy, and then is immediately him, or Sicko Scott immediately him for just a small amount of damage. But Sicko Scott appears to be safe under that turret, does still have a few defensive cooldowns available, does not have Monsoon, however, and for whatever reason opted to start Ignite over Exhaust, so may have to give up this turret here. Has to be careful. If Nightblue gets that Sonic Wave off, she will be in trouble. So RF Legendary is, however, going to burn his TP to come down and keep that tower safe. They are not looking to give up anything here. Dragon is available, though, and it appears that Nightblue's team will try to transition into that. Once again, Dragon control is very important for both these squads. Everybody wants that first Dragon buff especially, and both teams would like that third Dragon buff even more than movement speed. Coming in huge in every single one of these matchups. Trick2g not getting pushed back by the Azir ult. It looks like he may have spell shielded, or it may just not have worked too well there, but not going to be a huge deal. Stromp is going to come over the wall and pick up that kill on Akali. Is very low at this point. Has to be careful about fighting. Nightblue is going to take both members very, very low, but there is going to be no kills there. Nightblue and Blue both at sub 300 health. One more ability may have done it, but Strompus didn't quite have the time to get it off, or the damage at this point. Ethel has to be careful here. Looks like it's going to go down to Xpeke. Xpeke burning the flash, wanting to secure that kill, and Xpeke now 2-2-1. Small CS, a little bit behind in the CS, but still has so much damage and so much power in this lane. You can see all members of Trick2g's team on the bottom side of the map. It looks like they are going to try to take the small advantage they've accrued to steal blue buff away here, which won't be huge for the team overall. Azir not needing quite as much mana in those team fights, but it is going to make a huge difference in the long run. And now that Xpeke has been donated, or Xpeke has been donated that blue buff, he is going to be so much stronger in this laning phase. The Psyche hovering around, looking to get some assassinations going, is going to poke out RF Legendary a little bit, but RF Legendary very confident, knows Mega Gnar will be available soon if he needs it, and is going to try to force a team fight while that's available. You can see the rest of the team backing off because they don't want to engage with Mega Gnar, but they have to be careful here. Once that rages up, it's going to be able to do so much work. They do kick him away before he can get any abilities off. Good call from Nightblue, but is it going to be enough? Probably not. The Gnar comes in, stuns them both into the wall. The Psyche is going to go down. RF Legendary trying to get the kill on the Golden Glue, zoning the team out from the backside. Trick2g trying to get the fear off. It is not going to happen. It is going to happen, and it looks like Ethel is here to try to clean up, trying to get these resets here. Has to be careful, though, going a little bit too aggressive in the Stromp, is flashing out of the team fight. Ethel immediately using that reset to jump over the wall and get to safety. So overall, very good fight for Nightblue's side, trading Nightblue himself for Trick2g and Xpeke. Sicko Scott walking out of this with very low health. The rest of the team members looking to contest dragons, but it is a huge risk if they try to go for it. RF Legendary is going to come in from this, or is going to push up this mid lane, trying to discourage them from trying to take dragon, and Golden Glue may look to fight him here, is going to, however, use that Sand Soldier and that dash to get to safety at this point of the game. Strompus has his cooldowns available, does have the Frozen Tomb now, And I would like to note that he did not get a chance to use that in the last team fight, so definitely not the team fight that they wanted. And it looks like we're going to see repeated consecutive team fights surrounding this dragon. Both teams eager to get it. Trick2g squad, of course, more than happy to get that tower damage buff for their second dragon, and Nightblue's team ever eager to get there first and buff up their characters a little bit. Akali, of course, one of the best champions to get that AD and AP boost on, fully able to utilize both of those things, and it's just going to do so much work if the Psyche can get the character rolling. 4-2-2, doing quite well. Does have the Gunblade at this point. Will look to finish up that Zhonya's. It's going to take a little bit of time here, and we see turrets going down left and right. 2 turrets for Nightblue squad, 1 turret for Trick2g squad, that one in the top lane that Trick gave his life for earlier. Normally we see a little bit more objective pressure from Trick2g squad as far as split pushing goes, but you can see that they've assembled this team fighting comp, which is you know, very unlike them generally in this tournament. However, they appear to be using it pretty well. The last team fight not quite going their way, but one thing we do know from Trick2g's team is that they have tended to adapt as these games have moved forward. Always able to move as a team and always able to bring back losing team fights as they transition to the late game. Really curious how this Nocturne pick's going to work out for Trick. 0-4-4 so far, not looking so hot, but those 4 assists have been pretty relevant. Has been able to get RF Legendary rolling. RF Legendary 5-0-0, doing so much work. We've seen how powerful this Mega Gnar is and how well the team has done coordinating these team fights around his cooldowns. So, you know, whenever he has that rage available, the enemy team, Nightblue, especially has to be careful because any engage he tries to make can easily be counter-engaged once Gnar can slam people into those walls. 1k gold lead for Nightblue squad. Nothing too legitimate at this point. We keep in mind that, of course, Trick2g's team does still have that dragon buff. Probably not 1k, well, probably about 1k worth of stats at this point in the game. 17 minutes in, 9-9 in kills, 1-2 in turrets, and looks like 1-3 as the Psyche uses full advantage of the amount of pressure that his team is putting on Dragon. To push down that mid lane is going to go for the second tower. This is highly uncharacteristic of Trick2g's team to give up towers like this, but it appears that they haven't quite focused as well as they need to. Ethel's still able to get out that rocket jump, cooldown his Trumpet. Trumpet's almost immediately going to go down to the Psyche. Psyche doing so much burst damage there, and just characters getting taken out left and right. Golden Glue using that stand aside, or using that Zir ult to maybe try to zone Trick2g out, but it's not going to get a whole lot out of it. Trick himself very low on health. There are still 3 healthy members on Trick2g's lineup. They have to be careful here, though. RF Legendary is not going to have any of his Mega Gnar cooldowns as they move into this fight. He is going to turn into Mini Gnar here shortly, and they don't have a whole ton of options to get anything here. And Nightblue's team is going to pick up that dragon, is going to push themselves ahead. 3 turrets now to 1. They do have 1-for-1 on dragons, and of course, 28k gold to 25. So, a little less than a 3k gold advantage here for Nightblue squad, slowly getting bigger. Nightblue doing a lot of work in these team fights, using that Lee Sin kick to full effectiveness. Strompus, a lackluster Frozen Tomb in that fight. Really unfortunate that Tristana was able to get the rocket jump off before leaving, and of course, they didn't really respect the Psyche roaming in from mid lane. And not wanting to take turret, instead rotating into team fight, which I think was an excellent decision, as it's very clear how powerful the Psyche is in these situations where the team is kind of grouped up in the jungle. So overall, a little lack of decisiveness coming in from Trick2g's squad, which will punish them in the long run if they can't turn some of these team fights in their favor. And of course, Nightblue's lineup looking strong as always, despite some interesting ults from Golden Glue, and of course, Biofrost not really ulting at all, but good escape from Ethel and good fight from the team as a whole. You can see Golden Glue now making full advantage, or taking full use of that passage to push down the middle lane. You know, this is one of the big things that Azir excels at, especially on a team like this that has so much range from Tristana and so much harass from the Azir pick, is that they can pretty confidently push down this lane if they have their flanks supported. RF Legendary is going to fight here. Will get a small health boost as he turns to Mega Gnar. Is going to get the knockdown down, using the full rotation to get the burst off. Is going to get the Hex Drinker proc as well. That getting proc before he got the health boost. Has to be careful here. Is going to get kicked away by Lisa and Akali using that spell vamp to recover, and Nightblue cleaning up that kill. RF Legendary very confident this whole game, maybe too confident in that situation, and now Golden Glue looking to get the cleanup on Sicko Scott. Biofrost here, Biofrost ready, gonna get the slowdown, throwing out that Chowster quality ult. Nothing gonna come from it, no surprise. But the team as a whole will now move to take this second tier turret down. They have all 5 members committed here. Trick2g's lineup knows that they have to team fight. This is the lineup they chose. This is the strength that it has. But unfortunately, when you have a member down, when you're getting members picked off left and right, your very strong team fight turns into a very weak team fight very quickly. So, at this point, they are going to back off from the turret, not wanting to fight the 5v5. You can see that they're confident in that. Nightblue's team doing a very good job of getting these pickoffs. In this case, less of a pickoff and more of a miscalculation from RF Legendary, who tried to force the duel there and did not anticipate Nightblue's arrival. But good mechanical skill from both these top laners, both doing a lot of work for their respective teams. Akali now 5-2 and 3. Nightblue on that Gnar now 5-1 and 0. Curious to see how this is going to work as they move this thing forward. RF Legendary starting to transition into a more tanky build. Does have the Brutalize, does have the Hex Drinker for damage, but not much past that. You know, in the past, full tank Gnar has been what we've seen in the meta. Curious to see what RF Legendary is going to opt to build here, though, because Gnar is so rarely played in this tournament, as he's not exactly the best solo champion. You know, he's very much more teamfight oriented, and Trick2g's team in the past has always been about split pushing. So glad they picked it, glad to see a new style. Hope they can figure it out, but at this point it's looking like it's going to go in Nightblue's favor just because of how confident they've been making these picks. You can see now, though, the team is starting to apply pressure to this mid lane, know they can get this outer turret, know that they have the power in the team fights, and know that as long as RF Legendary is in Mega Gnar form, that the enemy team will be hard-pressed to engage them. But, you know, one of the things about Mega Gnar is if you can't get those timings right, if you can't use that rage appropriately, he becomes a bit more of a liability, because Mini Gnar, although definitely strong in those 1v1 dueling situations, has almost no presence in a team fight. RF Legendary, however, not too scared about that, going to use that Mini Gnar's Boomerang to poke down Nightblue a tiny bit, and they are going to clear that wave out pretty quickly. One of the advantages that this team does have is that between Lucian, Lissandra, and of course Gnar, they have excellent, well, not excellent wave clear, but substantial enough wave clear to stop the enemy team from engaging too hard. Sicko Scott getting poked out there by Golden Blue. Golden Blue, eager to get kills here, is starting to scale up, does have the Morellonomicon, does have the Blasting Wand, will most likely try to get Death Cap, although with the amount of magic resistance present on the enemy team, rushing Void Staff may be the logical decision at this stage in the game. Strompus, once again, playing this Lissandra. This is something I've given a lot of criticism for in the past. He does tend to go DFG on this character, tries to play a little bit like Vygar, but has opted for Morellonomicon this game, which I think is a much stronger buy. That cooldown reduction is going to come in huge if they can keep finding team fights and if they can find the picks that they want at this stage in the game. We do, however, see 9-11 now. The game is slowly transitioning into the favor of Nightblue's team. Xpeke flashing a bit too late. Nightblue on the way with that, or a bit too early rather. Nightblue on the way with that kick. The Psyche immediately going in onto RF Legendary. Nightblue able to follow up there, and Ethel also burning that rocket jump to get into the fray. So good picks from the team overall. Poor positioning from Xpeke is going to be punished pretty quickly, and Golden Blue, of course, going to set up that turret once again so that the team has something to fall back on in case Trick2g's lineup does try to engage. Nightblue looking pretty low. Does still have Dragon's Rage, that kick available, so could look to make a play here, could look to get the hard engage. Has to be careful, though. Diving into Lissandra is always very risky. But it looks like they are just going to back off and give up this turret. 9-13 now the score. 4-4 in turrets, however, so good play from Trick2g's lineup to match up that turret score, but still 4K gold behind. Going to be hard-pressed to win a full 5-on-5 fight at this point, despite the strength their lineup has, with that gold advantage coming in from Nightblue's side, and with the Zhonya's already finished from the Psyche. The Psyche is looking stronger and stronger. You know, we've seen Akali band away a lot in this tournament, and now we're starting to see why. She is just such a powerful champion. She snowballs so very well. And, you know, when played this proficiently, she can carry a lot of these fights and can clean up pretty much any character that isn't a full tank. And if you look at Trick2g's lineup, no one on that lineup is tanky enough to survive Akali. They are going to try to get the pick out here. Sicko Scott is immediately turning. Psyche going in. Has a 100% team back out. Sicko Scott trying to push the Psyche out. Is going to, however, go down himself. Psyche so very strong. Does still have the Zhonya's cooldown available. Triple kill. Trump is burning his Frozen Tomb to try to keep the Psyche off. But the Psyche flashing, going in. Quadra kill for the Psyche. Character, or a player I was skeptical about in the start of the game. Not one we've seen before, but maybe should have been in this tournament the whole time with a Akali play like that. You know, no surprises if that's banned out from him for the rest of the night. Just phenomenal. 10-2-4. This is the power that Akali has. You know, the situations where you don't have a perfect engage, where you cannot blow her up immediately. She just does so much work. Very similar to a LeBlanc, but with more sustained damage. And, you know, when you don't need to burst someone down in 2 seconds, and Akali has 5 or 6 second fights like that, she's just going to out-damage any other character in the game. Golden Blue zoning out as they take this Baron. Nightblue's team grabbing this very quickly. They are going to engage onto RF Legendary. Sicko Scott there to heal if necessary. They do have to back up, give up Baron and this blue buff in this case. Nightblue going to steal that one away, not wanting to lose it to RF Legendary or to Janna, coming in with that tornado. So the whole team backing off here now. They have to be careful about how they disengage. If they lose members here, it could be bad for them, but it looks like this is pretty much just a clean steal of Baron. Trick2g's team eager to pick up a couple pink wards, recoup a bit of that gold loss, but now as we move forward, it's going to be an 8k gold lead in the favor of Nightblue. And in the past, Nightblue has really struggled against Trick2g's split-pushing strategies, so I'm curious as to why they decided to swap at this game. But overall, it looks like they will grab the Dragon back to recoup that, and if they can't get the team fight they want at any stage of the game, especially once you get to like 45 minutes, Gnar's stun and the amount of CC that Gnar can do alone in any team fight, if he can hit that on multiple people, it pretty much turns the fight in your favor, guaranteed every time. So RF Legendary, gonna look to land that stun in those team fights. Combine that with Strumpus's massive AoE damage, but you know, they do need to wait till later in the game to get that winning situation. If they stay at the point that they are at, they can win that through that method, but they need to get an inhibitor here or something if they want to get back into this. But at this point, it looks like Nightblue's teams are going to be the ones taking an inhibitor, pushing as 5 confidently down the mid lane. Trick2g squad may have to look for an engage here, but they're having trouble because Gnar is not able to get the rage in a situation like this, and without Mega Gnar, their engage options are very, very limited. Taking out the last of those Baron-empowered minions. That Baron-empowered Canyon minion is so strong, outranging all the turrets, doing a lot of work. Unfortunately, not able to tank the turrets as a result, but in that situation, providing a substantial amount of damage. The rest of the team pretty much infested in the bot jungle, not looking to go anywhere. More than happy to poke out here, and gonna look to rotate into this bottom lane to try to take out this bottom tier turret. Xpeke taking so much damage from Ethel that a single auto attack with the static strip proc combined with Sona and a bit of Q damage from her is going to do so much work in this situation. Golden Glue on that is 0, 1, 0, and 8, doing a lot of work in these team fights, helping the team out in a number of circumstances, of course. And Ethel, you know, despite not being the most glorious player, 1, 3, and 2, does have a lot of fun. And once we hit that late game stride and that Ethel is quickly approaching, Tristana is going to do a lot of work, although that amount of work might not be necessary with the Psyche. Obviously, it's just so very, very powerful. Already has that Void Staff, Gunblade, Zanya's. That is a core set of items. Curious to see what they opt to pick up next. Might be a Death Cap, might be a Lich Bane, but it's just going to do so much damage in these fights. The Psyche immediately going to go and try to take out Strumpus before he can do anything. Jumping to the back line, going to Zonya. Strumpus slows Zonya's himself, still feared from the Psyche. Psyche gonna take out Trick2g, unfortunately. Trick trying to get that kill off, knowing that he was dead anyway, and the team as a whole just getting wiped out there. And this could be the win for Nightblue squad. They do have 20 seconds on the death timers. They have plenty of time. The Psyche playing full aggressive here, jumping in. RF Legendary trying to push him back, does not get the stun off, however, and will go down to the explosive shot from Tristana. This is going to be GG for Nightblue squad. Fantastic team fight, fantastic play from the Psyche. Psyche coming in so strong in that last team fight, especially going in immediately onto Lissandra. Lissandra having to frozen tomb herself, and then the Psyche immediately responding by jumping onto Xpeke, Zanya'ing, and just getting the entire team's focus. So swift victory for Nightblue squad there. Good game overall. Guys, we are going to be back with Game 2 shortly. Going to get some Cutie Pie versus Nightblue action. Good game from both teams. Be sure to head on over to OMEN.gg and vote for this week's draft. The draft will be happening tomorrow.